Hi, Armand Diaz here with our first question and answer Astroblog. And our first question is about the transiting North Node in Scorpio. What does it mean to have that North Node there in Scorpio? Where it will be from September of 2012 through about February of 2014. And the nodes retrograde. So while Saturn has entered the sign of Scorpio, or is going to enter the sign of Scorpio on October 5th, 2012, from Libra, going forward in the zodiac, the nodes are coming in from the other side. The North Node is coming in from Sagittarius into Scorpio, which it did in, actually it was the very last day of August of 2012. Now, the nodes travel in pairs. The north and south node of the moon are always directly opposite each other. And so when we look at the north node and its meaning, we have to consider the south node and its meaning. Now, the south node is usually where we kind of get a little bit clingy, where the ego winds up being a little bit too powerful, where we kind of don't want to change too much. So if we combine that with the material, sensual aspect of Taurus, what we find is there's a holding on to what you got. Now, in our kind of rocky economy, that's likely to show up as being a polarization between the haves and the have-nots. But the way that we handle it is kind of the same, no matter which side of the fence you happen to be on. If you're a have, if you're a have-not, if you're in that diminishing middle range, it's all kind of the same to you. So if you're on the 1% side of things, well, you like the status quo and you don't want things to change, and you better not come for my stuff. If you're on the other side of things entirely and you're, proverbially don't have two nickels to rub together, you only have one nickel, I guess you can't rub that together. You only got one nickel. Well, you don't want to lose that either. And if you're in the middle, you feel that, oh my gosh, I don't really want things to change that much either. So we're in this kind of interesting sort of balance situation, right? Where we want there to be change, but we don't want there to be change that's going to threaten what we already have. We'd like for change for the better. The idea that there might be change that would be unstable, that could sort of tip us in one direction or the other, that's not so appealing. So as the Uranus-Pluto square pushes us towards change, part of us says, yes, I want to change. And part of us says, well, no, not so much. And that south node in Taurus is really going to pull us towards saying, I'm not so sure I want this change. I'd like other people to change, I'd like the system to change, but I'm not so sure that I really want my stuff to change. That's what we deal with on a collective level. No matter where you are, 1% and 99% doesn't really matter. The south node in Taurus sort of sparks that resistance to change up a little bit. Now, the North Node in Scorpio says, no, you got to trust the process of transformation. You got to trust the change. You've got to trust that we can do things differently. You've got to be able to move off of that secure material level and recognize, among other things, that the material world is not necessarily the most important thing. There are other things that are equally important. We need the material stuff, but that's kind of the base of the pyramid. When we get to things like our emotional life, when we get to things like our connection with others, when we get to things like really doing what we want to do, those things are also very, very important. And if we have enough material stuff, then we can start to address all of those other needs, those higher needs. And the North Node in Scorpio is saying, well, can you let go a little bit? And in the process of letting go, can you move to a place where you have a trust that what's going to happen is going to be better? And it's a scary, scary thing. So the short and skinny on the North Node in Scorpio is, it's about moving past that attachment to the material and getting to a spot where we can look at the bigger picture, where we can look at the deep transformative processes that are happening and look at them with a degree of trust that something better is going to come out of it. It's kind of a tough thing to do, and each of us always sort of falls back towards the south node. We pull ourselves up towards the north node. South node is kind of like 4 o'clock in the morning when you wake up and go. And the north node is like 4 o'clock in the afternoon when you say to yourself, yeah, we can do this. No problem. And that's the spot that we're in with the south node in Taurus and the north node in Scorpio. Only this time it has more to do with money and material things. And I hope that answers your question.